To provide as much transparency as I can consistent with the law. I will make those judgments based solely on the law and will let no personal, political, or other improper interests influence my decision. Today, the ACLU said it's pressing senators to explore Barr's position on presidential authorities and mass data collection.
They have to vigorously question him about his views on executive power, on what he thinks the limits of the president's power are, and how he will defend the Fourth Amendment. You know, whether he will really scale back surveillance programs that we know raise significant constitutional and privacy concerns.
The hearings start tomorrow here on Fox and are scheduled over the next couple of days, Brett.
We'll have that here on Fox. Catherine, thanks. President Trump's almost daily self-defense over the Russia probe may have been having a negative influence on his popularity in the polls, plus his position on the partial government shutdown and what comes next. Senior political analyst Britt Hume is here to look at the numbers and discuss those things. Good evening, Britt. We want to start with this the shutdown and the positioning. You know, we're seeing polls that don't look good for the president and the GOP. Your thoughts on this, and if there's a turning point in this whole back and forth?
Well, we've been here before, haven't we, Brett? Government shut down and people blame the Republicans. In only one case, and that was the so-called Schumer shutdown a year or so ago, has that not been the case. Mostly, I think, because people perceive the Republicans as the party that wants to shrink the government, and the Democrats as the party of government. So it's a natural tendency to blame the Republicans for a shutdown, especially when their leader, in this case President Trump, publicly says he'll take the blame, and he's getting it, and it's affecting, I think, his poll numbers in a way that was basically inevitable.
Interestingly, in the poll, the ABC Washington Post poll, building the border wall has now increased fairly significantly, as we haven't seen those numbers move in recent weeks and months, up to 42% now, as talk about the border increases.
Yeah, and I think, Brett, that gives the president a little hope that at some point that he and the Democrats, you know, these two parties seem to have painted themselves into opposite corners of the same room and can't see a way out of it at the moment. And the obvious way out of it would be for the Democrats to give some ground on funding the border barrier or wall or whatever you choose to call it, and the president to give some ground on immigration reforms that the Democrats want. I think he's shown some willingness to do that. At particular times, he's lowered his dollar request for funding the barrier. But at this point, I think the Democrats seem to think that he is in such bad shape politically that they can force on him a total surrender on this issue and really humiliate him. But if that doesn't work and the government remains closed, at some point people are going to say, "Well, come on, Democrats, you can give a little ground on the border." And I noticed Senator Coons over the weekend was saying, for example, he didn't really agree with Nancy Pelosi's assessment that the border wall is immoral. Of course, it'd be pretty hard to argue that in light of the fact that, you know, Democrats have voted for funding for the wall before. So, I mean, there's obviously something for the president to hang his hat on here in poll results that are otherwise not very good for him.
Yeah, I just want to play this soundbite. This is the president first reacting on Judge Jeanine's show about this New York Times story that he was working for the Russians, and then today.
I think it's the most insulting thing I've ever been asked. I think it's the most insulting article I've ever had written. And if you read the article, you'd see that they found absolutely nothing.
I never worked for Russia, and you know that answer better than anybody. I never worked for Russia. Not only did I never work for Russia, I think it's a disgrace that you even asked that question.
You know, a lot of parsing about his answers. But, you know, in that story, Britt, 9th paragraph down, it did say that they didn't have any evidence that this came to be.
Well, you know, what was fascinating over the weekend was when he didn't directly deny that that he'd worked for Russia in the question that he got from Judge Pirro. And if you think about that for a second, Brett, it's quite almost amusing, because in order to believe that that was significant, that he didn't directly deny it, you'd have to believe that A, he did do it, that he was working for Russia, and B, that he was too honest to lie about it. I don't think many of his critics actually believe that, so that was all kind of silly, but he seems now to have made a pretty firm denial, which is where we are.
That's where we are as we await the Mueller report. Britt, thank you very much. The top Republican in Congress is tearing into one of his own tonight. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says Iowa Republican Congressman Steve King might want to consider getting a new job. Last week, King was quoted by the New York Times, as we've reported here, saying, "White nationalist, white supremacist, Western civilization, how did that language become offensive?" King has since said he rejects such labels, and that was a rookie mistake. This afternoon, McConnell said there is no place in the Republican Party, the Congress, or the country for an ideology of racial supremacy of any kind. "I have no tolerance for such positions, and those who espouse these views are not supporters of American ideals and freedoms." Representative King's statements are unwelcome and unworthy of his elected position. If he doesn't understand why white supremacy is offensive, he should find another line of work. Also today, Illinois Democratic Congressman Bobby Rush introduced a resolution to censure King. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn says a reprimand will do. President Trump says he has not been following the controversy, and late this afternoon, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy met with King. So far, no one involved is commenting on that meeting. The president's top diplomat is supporting his boss's threat to cause economic devastation to a major American ally. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is heading back from the Middle East region after an effort to try to get some of the country's most important friends to act a little friendlier toward each other. State Department correspondent Rich Edson reports from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in Riyadh. Their second meeting here in 3 months to discuss Yemen, Iran, and Syria. The secretary also defended President Trump's tweet threatening to devastate Turkey economically if it attacks Kurdish forces in Syria. Turkey partners in the fight against ISIS.
We want to make sure that the folks who fought with us to take down the caliphate and ISIS have security, and also that terrorists acting out of Syria aren't able to attack Turkey. The precise methodology which by we will achieve that security for both of those elements along that border is something we're still working on.
Turkey's foreign minister responded that his country is never afraid of threats, and strategic partners should never communicate through social media. On the war in Yemen, a Saudi-led coalition is fighting Iranian-backed Houthi forces. The State Department says the U.S. and Saudi Arabia agreed on the need for continued de-escalation. Pompeo arrived in Riyadh from Doha, the capital of Saudi Arabia's neighbor and adversary, Qatar. A year and a half ago, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Egypt initiated a blockade against Qatar. The secretary says the fight among U.S.
The ongoing dispute in the region has dragged on too long, and the dispute benefits adversaries and harms our mutual interests.
The secretary says he also raised Jamal Khashoggi's murder and that he told the Crown Prince and King Salman that every person responsible for Khashoggi's death must be held accountable. Pompeo says both Saudi leaders acknowledged those responsible should be punished. Though after a CIA briefing late last year, several senior Democratic and Republican senators said the intel leads them to believe the Crown Prince was responsible. It's been more than 100 days since Jamal Khashoggi was murdered inside Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul. The Saudi government says it has charged 11 suspects and is pursuing the death penalty against 5 of them. Brett?
Rich Edson traveling with the Secretary of State. Rich, thanks. There are new concerns tonight about Americans being held captive in Iran. Last week, Iran confirmed it is holding a U.S. Navy veteran, the first American seized since President Trump took office. Michael White is one of at least 4 Americans held prisoner in Iran. Tonight, the wife of another captive talks with national security correspondent Jennifer Griffin.
3 years ago, PhD student Zia Wong left his wife and 2-year-old son at Princeton for what he thought would be a quick trip to Tehran to research 19th century Central Asian politics. Instead, he became a victim of 21st century politics, arrested by Iranian police.
Iran says that he's a spy.
Yeah. He is not a spy. He's not a spy. He's just a history nerd. All he wants to do is to do a good research and then teach for the rest of his life.
He's now serving a 10-year term in Iran's notorious Evin prison, one of at least 4 Americans now being held. His wife, Hua, has been fighting for his freedom ever since. Her husband left home the same month the Iran nuclear deal took effect. Tehran released 5 American prisoners as part of the deal. For 20 days, she did not know where he was.
I received a phone call, and it was him crying to me that he was detained. So it was the time that he first came out of solitary confinement and gave me a phone call. And he literally cannot say anything. He just cried to me.
What did he say it was like in prison?
He cannot even properly form a sentence.
The State Department and UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention have publicly said Zia Wang is not a spy. Jane Manners was in the same Princeton PhD program.
He was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was an American citizen in Iran right after Iran had released nearly all of its U.S. prisoners, and they perhaps needed more. That's a bargaining chip.
She described the impact on Wang's wife and 5-year-old son.
He's not sure where his dad is or when his dad is coming back.
3 years later, Wang's shoes wait by the front door as his family awaits his return.
This is all politics. My husband didn't do anything wrong.
In Princeton, New Jersey, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News.
Up next, a setback for President Trump's rollback of Obamacare regulations. We'll explain. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 5 in Atlanta, as the Transportation Security Administration says a passenger bound for Tokyo was able to pass through security at Atlanta's airport with an undetected gun. Officials have not yet said how that gun got through security. The TSA says standard procedures for screening were not followed. It happened January 2nd, about a week and a half into the partial government shutdown. Fox 7 in Austin, Texas, as a lawmaker says a Confederate plaque in the Texas Capitol that rejects slavery as the underlying cause of the Civil War has been removed. Democrat State Representative Eric Johnson tweeted a photo of the blank wall where the plaque once was displayed. He has long pushed the state to remove that plaque, which was made by the children of the Confederacy and was first hung in the Capitol in 1959. And this is a live look at Los Angeles from our affiliate, Fox 11. The big story there tonight, Pacific Gas and Electric says it plans to file for bankruptcy protection amid potentially massive liabilities resulting from the deadly California wildfires. Officials are investigating whether the utility's equipment sparked a wildfire in Northern California in November that killed at least 86 people and destroyed 15,000 homes. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from the Special Report. We'll be right back.
Minimums and fees, they seem to be the very foundation of your typical bank. Capital One is anything but typical. That's why we designed Capital One Cafes. You can get savings and checking accounts with no fees or minimums, and one of America's best savings rates. To top it off, you can open one from anywhere in 5 minutes. This isn't a typical bank. This is banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
When did you see the sign?
When I needed to jumpstart sales. Build attendance for an event.
Help people find their way. Fast Signs designed new directional signage.
And got them back on track. Get started at fastsigns.com.
There's something for everyone at Golden Corral. Let's talk about their wings. Get them sweet, spicy, even boneless. Get as much as you want for one low price. It's Wingfest for a limited time, only at Golden Corral.
The word education means to lead forth. But which way is forth? How do you know you're going in the right direction? At Hillsdale College, we understand education to be the pursuit of the highest answer to that question. Discovering the right way by reading the greatest books by the greatest minds in history. Coming to see the meaning of the good, the true, and the beautiful. This is the way forth. This is education.
To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop. Does this sound dismal? It isn't. It's the most wonderful life on earth.
was time to update the bathroom.
But we wanted to work with a company we could trust.
And Rebath made it effortless. A Rebath design consultant came to our home and presented us ideas and products in a way that made our decision simple.
They took away the old, installed the new, and gave us the bathroom
we always wanted.
Trust Rebath with the safety in your bathroom. Call 866-5REBATH for your free in-home design consultation today.
Tonight, Tucker investigates the border battle. Inside the D.C. gridlock and why Dems still won't budge on the wall. Must-see insight on Tucker Carlson Tonight.
Hi, I'm Joan London with A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. For the past 5 years, I've spoken with hundreds of families and visited senior care communities around the country. And I've got to tell you, today's senior living communities are better than ever. These days, there are amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And nobody understands your options like the advisors at A Place for Mom. These are local expert advisors that will partner with you to find the perfect place and determine the right level of care, whether that's just a helping hand or full-time memory care. Best of all, it's a free service. There is never any cost to you. Senior living has never been better, and there's never been an easier way to get great advice. Call today. A Place for Mom. You know your family. We know senior living. Together, we'll make the right choice.
This is a Fox News alert. Another blow a short time ago to another of President Trump's moves to try to roll back Obamacare regulations. This one involves contraception and employers who are legally bound to provide it. National correspondent William Lajeunesse has details from Los Angeles.
Late today, Pennsylvania District Court Judge Wendy Beadlestone issued a nationwide injunction against President Trump's policy allowing some employers to opt out of mandatory birth control coverage for women.
Women must control their fate.
The fight is over an Obama-era mandate under the Affordable Care Act that employers provide free contraception. That law provided a narrow religious exemption. President Trump sought to expand.
We will not allow people of faith to be targeted, bullied, or silenced anymore.
The new rule would have allowed employers like the Little Sisters of the Poor to opt out based on religious or moral objections.
The Little Sisters actually have a real objection here. It's not financially motivated. It's not something that they're trying to do to be more profitable so that their shareholders can get more money. They don't have shareholders. The people that they're trying to serve are the elderly, poor, and dying.
But Planned Parenthood says the Trump policy is so broadly written, it could apply to corporations and investor-owned companies who might use the loophole to avoid paying for coverage.
This rule applies to any employer, whether they're a religious-based, faith-based organization or not, and it allows them to prevent your health insurance from covering birth control for any reason. It could be a religious reason, it could be a moral reason, it could be really anything at all.
Today's nationwide injunction follows a similar ruling Sunday from federal judge Haywood Gilliam in Oakland that applied only to Washington, D.C. and 13 states. Both judges were Obama appointees. The administration claims religious and moral objectors should not be forced into actions that conflict with their belief or conscience. Some believe this case will eventually end at the Supreme Court. Brett?
William, thank you. Tens of thousands of Los Angeles teachers are on strike tonight after contentious contract negotiations failed. Los Angeles is the nation's second largest school district. Union teachers voted last year to walk off the job for the first time in 3 decades if a deal was not reached on issues including higher wages and smaller class sizes. Schools will stay open because the district with 640,000 students has hired hundreds of substitutes to replace teachers and others who leave for picket lines. Stocks began the week on a down note. The Dow lost 86, the S&P 500 dropped 14, the Nasdaq fell 66. Up next, new blood versus old blood in the Democratic presidential race and the new heights of intimacy we might see on the trail. First, beyond our borders tonight, a Chinese court sentences a Canadian man to death in a sudden retrial of a drug smuggling case. The suspect was detained more than 4 years ago and initially sentenced to 15 years in prison. The resentencing is likely to affect diplomatic negotiations between the countries over the arrest of a top Chinese technology executive. British Prime Minister Theresa May is offering both a promise on workers' rights and a reassuring letter from European Union letters as she urges British lawmakers to support her floundering Brexit deal. A defeat tomorrow would throw Brexit plans into disarray, just weeks before the United Kingdom is due to leave the bloc on March 29th. Navy divers have recovered the cockpit voice recorder of a Lion Air jet that crashed into the Java Sea in October. That's according to Indonesian officials. They're still trying to determine why the 2-month-old plane nosedived at high velocity, killing all 189 people on board. Just some of the other stories beyond our borders tonight. We'll be right back.
Each day, Justin chooses to walk. At work and after work. He does it all with Dr. Scholl's. Only Dr. Scholl's has massaging gel insoles that provide all-day comfort to keep him feeling more energized. Dr. Scholl's, born to move.
At Safe Flight Auto Glass, we know that when you're spending time with the grandkids, every minute counts. And you don't have time for a cracked windshield. That's why we show you exactly when we'll be there, saving you time so you can keep saving the world.
Hiring? It's a big deal. Finding the right candidates can take up lots of your time and energy. But not on Indeed. Millions of great people are using Indeed every single day. People with every possible combination of skill and experience. And with filters to help you find them faster, whatever type of candidates you're looking for, you'll find them on Indeed. Accelerate your hiring even more with a $50 credit to start your first job post with premium placement on Indeed.
Hi, I'm Bob Harper, and I recently had a heart attack. It changed my life, but I'm a survivor. After my heart attack, my doctor prescribed Brilinta. It's for people who have been hospitalized for a heart attack.
Brilinta is taken with a low-dose aspirin, no more than 100 milligrams, as it affects how well Brilinta works. Brilinta helps keep platelets from sticking together and forming a clot. In a clinical study, Brilinta worked better than Plavix.
Brilinta reduced the chance of having another heart attack or dying from one.
Don't stop taking Brilinta without talking to your doctor, since stopping it too soon increases your risk of clots in your stent, heart attack, stroke, and even death. Brilinta may cause bruising or bleeding more easily, or serious, sometimes fatal bleeding. Don't take Brilinta if you have bleeding, like stomach ulcers, a history of bleeding in the brain, or severe liver problems. Slow heart rhythm has been reported. Tell your doctor about bleeding, new or unexpected shortness of breath, any planned surgery, and all medicines you take.
If you recently had a heart attack, ask your doctor if Brilinta is right for you. My heart is worth Brilinta.
If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Why do so many homeowners start home repair and improvement projects at Home Advisor?
With Home Advisor, we know we're going to find the right pros for absolutely any project.
You can read reviews,
compare prices,
and book an appointment online.
And it's free.
Go to homeadvisor.com.
Billions of mouths, billions of problems. Morning breath, garlic breath, stinky breath? There's a TheraBreath for you. TheraBreath Fresh Breath Oral Rinse instantly fights all types of bad breath and works for 24 hours, so you can breathe easy. There's TheraBreath at Walmart.
Introducing the new South Beach Diet. It's keto friendly.
Lose up to 7 pounds in your first 7 days.
Since baby number 3, I've lost 17 pounds with the South Beach Diet.
South Beach is a low-carb, high-protein, keto-friendly program that burns fat and transforms your metabolism. Made from farm-fresh ingredients, customized and prepared for you with keto-friendly options.
Go online or call 855-916-LIGHT right now and save 40% plus get probiotic keto-friendly shakes free.
In an era of online retail where everything is just a few clicks away, buying a car should be no different. That's why at Carvana, you can buy a car 100% online. We made it easy to browse, view, and buy from over 10,000 cars. You can even trade in your old car, all while binge watching your favorite TV show. Afterwards, we'll deliver your car to you. Or you can pick it up from one of our car vending machines. Either way, your car comes with a 7-day return policy. So grab a seat, relax in your comfy pants, and enjoy the new way to buy a car at Carvana.
Former President Obama's presidential race. That comment, as you can imagine, is not going over too well with his former vice president, 76-year-old Joe Biden, who is considering a run. But there are 2 new contenders as of this weekend. Correspondent Kristen Fisher looks at how 2020 is shaping up for the Democrats.
I have decided to run and will be making a formal announcement within the next week.
With that, Hawaii Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard became the first prominent Democrat to officially enter the 2020 race since Maryland Congressman John Delaney announced his intentions to run a year and a half ago. But right out of the gate, her history of working to pass a constitutional amendment to protect traditional marriage back in 1998 is once again coming under scrutiny. She's since said, "I regret the positions I took in the past." But the Republican National Committee believes she has no base of support. Liberals think she's too conservative. Conservatives think she's too liberal. The RNC also attacked the second Democratic candidate to enter the race this weekend, Julian Castro, by saying he's made history by becoming one of the biggest lightweights to ever run for president. But the former San Antonio mayor and Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, who's campaigning in Puerto Rico today, says he has the experience and he believes his relative youth is an asset.
It's time for new leadership. Because it's time for new energy.
Senator Elizabeth Warren hasn't officially announced she's running, but she sure sounded like it during a stop in New Hampshire on Saturday.
We need to make systemic change in this country.
But the biggest fish in this ever-growing Democratic sea would be former Vice President Joe Biden.
A lot of people say Biden's doing okay, but, you know, he was always a 1%er. He was a 1% guy. He ran 2 or 3 times. He never got above 1%.
Buzz is building that Biden's about to enter the race, even though just last week his old boss seemed to signal that Biden may not have his full support by saying of the Democratic Party, "We have a deficit of leadership and we need new blood."
And that new blood could be someone like Beto O'Rourke, who met with Mr. Obama in November. But don't forget about Senator Bernie Sanders. Politico's reporting that he just locked down his digital team from 2016. And Senator Kirsten Gillibrand is expected to form an exploratory committee in the coming days. Brett?
All right, Kristen, thank you. More on this with the panel. The 2020 campaign is already setting new standards when it comes to intimacy and social media. Tonight, Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, looks at just how far the transparency and sales job may go.
President Trump is the acknowledged master of making news with Twitter taunts. But the hot commodity these days is online video. Not of boring speeches, but of candidates doing everyday things. Beto O'Rourke, the failed Texas Senate candidate weighing a White House run, uses Instagram.
I'm here at the dentist, and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border.
Yes, they talked about the border, but much mockery ensued, with commentator Ben Shapiro tweeting his own dental moment, "Who wore it better?" Another likely 2020 candidate, Senator Kamala Harris, is seen grooving here and declaring herself pro-dancing. When Elizabeth Warren announced her presidential exploratory committee, she wanted to show her comfort with a cold one.
Hold on a sec. I'm going to get me a beer. My husband, Bruce, is now in here.
The president tweeted about her, quote, beer catastrophe, saying if Pocahontas, as he calls the senator, had done the video with her husband dressed in full Indian garb, it would have been a smash. But the 2020 contenders are way behind Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the 29-year-old Democratic congresswoman with 4 million Instagram and Twitter followers who watch her cook.
Here you go. Here's the final product. We got some of our mac and cheese.
Yeah. What is absolutely.
Who cares? The congresswoman responded with an emoji. We got under his skin. For politicians determined to seem real and authentic, not stiff and scripted, they can appear pretty hip when the videos work, or they can look decidedly uncool. Brett?
When they don't. Howie, thanks. President Trump insists he has never worked for the Russians, and he's insulted by the insinuation. Plus, is there an end to sight? Insight to the partial shutdown? We'll get reaction from the panel when we come back.
We really love the holidays at Graham Graham's, but it's tough to
relax.
The Dish guy heard us, said with the Dish Anywhere app, we could bring the comfort of our home TV with us. That put us right at ease.
Upgrade to Dish and take your home TV anywhere.
What if there was something that can reduce body fat, boost mood, get rid of wrinkles, tighten saggy skin, and make you look and feel decades, not years, but decades younger? Interested?
Serovital, available at Ulta and smarter retailers nationwide.
What's the horse?
What you don't see can hurt you. Today's connected world is full of threats you may not see if you just monitor your credit to help protect your identity. LifeLock sees more, like your personal information on the dark web. And now with the power of Norton, we detect threats like ransomware too, to help protect your identity and devices. Plus, if there's an identity theft problem, we'll work to fix it with our $1 Million Protection Package. Get LifeLock with Norton, starting at $9.99 a month.
These days, you can't go anywhere without your phone in your hand. So to keep it secure when your hands are busy, WeatherTech invented the cup phone. With removable cups, the cup phone fits any size cup holder and adjusts to secure virtually any size phone. Tilts for perfect viewing, even allows easy access while charging. So if you're driving, boating, or even golfing, it fits perfectly. Whatever you drive, whatever phone you have, Cup Phone is the perfect fit. Order your American-made Cup Phone today at WeatherTech.com.
Throughout my life, I've always tried to be there for the people around me. Now, things have changed. I'm so grateful to have an angel who truly cares for me.
It's so rewarding to be a part of his life and make a difference when he needs it the most.
Visiting Angels, America's choice in home care.
We decided to go with Bath Fitter after doing a lot of research.
Yeah, we loved how they could install a new tub right over the old one without tearing our bathroom apart.
Yeah, what we didn't expect was to be blown away by the quality. And that's what happened. They showed up in the morning, and by the end of the day, we had this absolutely beautiful new bathtub. It was better than we could have even imagined.
And it's guaranteed for life.
I actually love our bathroom now.
Book your free in-home consultation today. Call or visit bathfitter.com.
No. I don't think so. Exactly. Better watch my geranium.
Stop crying before it happens with Ring. Learn more at ring.com.
Finding the right vacation rental can take hours. Luckily, there's Home to Go. With Home to Go, you can search hundreds of websites and millions of offers. Fast. Home to Go. It's the world's largest vacation rental search engine.
Home to go.
How can fitness designed for everyone be the right fit for you? It can't. And that's why I'm here. I am Max, the artificial intelligence driving the new Bowflex Max trainer machine.
Here we go.
I'll learn your capabilities and adapt each day with personalized workouts unique to you to help you become stronger, fitter, and healthier. I am Max on the new Bowflex Max trainer. Learn more at Bowflex.com, where the New Year's sale is happening now.
Excuse me, what's on your wrist? I had all these credit card points saved up, so I just went for it.
Of course Jackie bought that bracelet with points. She's always buying nice stuff with points. I swear that card's got a genie in it or something. Look at her sweater. I bet that's a cashback sweater. My card doesn't get me anything.
I want nice things.
Credit card envy? Go to comparecards.com, where you can search and apply for credit cards based on the perks you like most. A better card is out there. Just compare cards.
I don't know what's closer to the deal. This should be the easiest deal that I've ever seen. We're talking about border security. Who can be against it?
What we don't want to do is waste taxpayer money on a vanity project that's ineffective.
Border security ought to be driven by the experts, not by the political whims of a campaign promise where Trump said the wall was going to be built and was going to be paid for by Mexico.
It's common sense. What we're talking about is common sense.
That's where we are. We'll start with the partial government shutdown in day 24, longest ever in U.S. history. The president tweeting out today, I've been waiting all weekend. Democrats must get to work now. Border must be secured. Nancy and Crying Chuck can end the shutdown in 15 minutes. At this point, it has become their and the Democrats' fault. Well, at home, a lot of people polled don't think that way, at least according to ABC Washington Post poll. Trump and Republicans responsible for the shutdown, 53%, Democrats 29%. There you see both equally at 13%. That's where we'll start with the panel. Let's bring them in. Chris Starwald's politics editor here at Fox News, Mo Alethia, executive director of the Georgetown Institute of Politics, and Ben Dominance is the publisher of The Federalist. Okay, Mo, you heard Tim Kaine and Mark Warner putting the onus on not spending taxpayer money for something that doesn't work on the border. Could Democrats get to a place that says, here's this line lump of money to the Border Patrol. You decide what to do with it as far as security.
I think Democrats are been pretty clear so far that they are not going to play with these federal workers as a negotiating chip, that they want the government open and then they will talk about it. Democrats have been clear that they want a holistic approach to border security, a holistic approach to immigration reform, but that they're not going to, they don't want to leave these federal workers in the lurch. And so far, at least in the PR wars, the American people are siding with them on this.
Ben.
I think that this question about who's to blame for the shutdown is the wrong question to be asking. It's the question that D.C. is asking. You listen to that comment from Tim Kaine about the money. This is not about the money. This is about sending a message in this case by the president to his base that, yes, I am, after 2 years of sort of not dealing with this promise, the biggest promise that I made, going to deal with this, and the message from Democratic leadership to their base that they're not going to show up in Washington and have their first act to be to bend over to this president on his signature issue. I think the president needs to lean more into the argument about what the Democrats' position really is, which is that they believe that this wall is immoral because they now believe that borders are immoral, or at least a significant portion of their base does. Put them in that position and lean into that argument more, because I think this internal conventional wisdom question about who's to blame for the shutdown, he's not going to win that.
I mean, to this point, Nancy Pelosi obviously used that word immoral. You've seen now Beto O'Rourke saying that it's racist. That the wall itself comes from a racist place. That seems like a pushback point, especially for those border state residents.
Especially with the Democrats junketeering to the beach in Puerto Rico, it would seem like it's a tailor-made moment, ready-made for a coherent Republican response here. But we do not get a coherent Republican response. And I think, to Ben's point, there are great avenues that Republicans could be following to keep the pressure on Democrats, but they do not. We hear the same thing over and over again. There's a crisis at the border. There's a crisis at the border. And everybody agrees, but we're still talking about the same thing. Democrats are at $1.6 billion. Republicans are at $5.7 billion, and no one has budged in either direction. The Republicans haven't come down, and the Democrats haven't gone up, and here we sit.
All right, here's Lindsey Graham over the weekend, the president's response.
If the legislative path is closed, and every day it goes by it seems to be more closed rather than more open, and the only thing left with the president is the emergency declaration. And I suggested to him, before you pull that trigger, see if you can have a short-term CR to see if we can get there.
I did reject it, yes. I'm not interested. I want to get it solved. I don't want to just delay it. I want to get it solved.
All right, so what is the path? Is there a point? How do we get from here to there? Does anybody know?
No, I don't think anyone knows yet. But look, I think at some point this is going to be untenable. This is already the longest shutdown in American history. You've got people who are now getting zero on their pay stubs. People aren't able to pay their rent. And it's not just the federal workers, it's all the contractors. We're seeing these lines at airports. If that starts to become institutionalized, there's going to be a pressure point from which I think even this president will not be able to come back from.
There's no incentive for him to shift off of this at this moment. It's going to take a lot more time and I think a lot more pain before you have any really willingness on the part of either side here to budge, given how much this is central to their message.
You said it doesn't matter who's to blame, but is there a point where you think it tips and people say, hey, where's the deal? Or?
I think that there is going to be a moment when that happens, but I think we're a long way off from it.
All right, I want to quickly get to this Russia story. The president vigorously pushing back today on these stories about the FBI opening this investigation, saying I never worked for Russia. What about this?
Can I just say how sick I am of these stories? So the New York Times story was an interesting, revelatory thing. The Washington Post was an interesting, revelatory thing. It gets treated all out of boundaries on all sides. Of course, the take from, I think it was, no offense to Peter Baker, but I think it was the lead of his story, that when Judge Janine asked Donald Trump, do you work for the Russians, that he didn't give her a straight answer. I don't think that was ambiguous. I think that he was saying, I think he's been very clear that he is innocent here and he didn't do the things wrong. I think we have so much Mueller expectation. Everybody is so ready for Mueller that any fish that swims by, everybody says is the great white shark. I think we got to continue to pace ourselves and breathe a little bit here.
Here's Jonathan Karl on ABC over the weekend about all of this.
People who are closest to what Mueller has been doing, who have interacted with the special counsel, caution me that this report is almost certain to be anticlimactic. That if you look at what the FBI was investigating in that New York Times report, you look at what they were investigating, Mueller did not go anywhere with that investigation.
Mo?
Only Bob Mueller knows what Bob Mueller has, and only Bob Mueller knows when we're all going to find out. Look, I think the past week we've seen more than just a couple of fish, right? I think these have been pretty big fish, but at the end of the day, we won't know until we see it, and I think we should give him all the space he needs to put together a comprehensive report.
And there's no indication that they're not going to do that.
After years of this, we still have no evidence that the president treasonously colluded with the Russian government to obtain his election. We do have a mountain of evidence that the FBI and the DOJ had a number of people who acted inappropriately to start investigations that they spun up because of the president's politics, because of how he regarded Russia. Imagine if we had the FBI investigating President Obama after his comments to Medvedev about his flexibility after the coming election.
No, in fairness,
it's completely out of line, and it should be something that should arouse a lot more concern on the parts of the people who want us to trust these institutions, who believe these institutions need to be trusted in order for us to move forward.
In fairness, we have seen the president's then campaign manager evidence that he had some pretty interesting and remarkable relationships with the Russians.
The idea that Paul Manafort is a bad guy is not a new thing at this table.
But it's not. It's more than him being a bad guy. The question is there evidence that the president's campaign colluded with the Russians? There may be evidence right there. All I'm saying is we won't know everything until the full report is done, and the efforts by some to silence it, saying it's taken too long, like, let the man have as much time as he needs.
Okay, but my point is that the administration so far is not saying that. They're not silencing it. They're letting it go. Bill Barr, who's up tomorrow, says let it go, and he's the AG nominee. Okay. We say a lot of that at the same time. Next up, new blood versus old blood in 2020.
To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop. Does this sound dismal? It isn't. It's the most wonderful life on earth.
This is PillPack, and this is how I take my medication. So simple. Oh, this is my son, Joe. He does my errands. He goes to the pharmacy.
Not anymore. PillPack delivers right to her door. No more waiting in line.
They sort all my medication.
And they keep track of all of her prescriptions, too.
Does your pharmacy do that?
There's no way.
Learn more at pillpack.com.
However you take your business card, make the most of it with more shapes, stocks, and finishes from Vistaprint. Now's the time to try 500 standard cards starting at just $9.99 with promo code VCNOW. Own the now with Vistaprint.
Defending the wall. Trump's push for border security, the critical stakes, and why America needs it now. Newt Gingrich joins Sean with his take, only on Hannity, tonight.
One certainty in life is that it changes, and so does your vision, which is why VSP offers individual vision plans, coverage you can buy on your own. Because whether you're self-employed, in between jobs, or at a job that doesn't offer vision coverage, you still deserve access to savings on eyewear and quality eye care from a doctor you trust. For the best care at the best price, visit VSPdirect.com to see better for life for less.
Thank you, VSP. Hi, I'm Joan London. Today's senior living communities have never been better. With amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And there's never been an easier way to get great advice. A Place for Mom is a free service that pairs you with a local advisor to help you sort through your options and find the perfect place. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together we'll make the right choice.
Is credit card debt keeping you up at night? Are you struggling to make monthly payments and getting nowhere? If you owe $10,000 or more, here's good news. Freedom Debt Relief is ready to help you to get out of debt so you can get on with your life. Being almost out of debt feels fantastic. I feel like it's like a new life. It's like a clean slate. Over 500,000 Americans have chosen Freedom Debt Relief to consolidate their debt, reduce what they owe, and eliminate debt faster.
Find out how quickly you could be debt-free. Call now, 1-800-652-9120.
The best thing about this program is that it would have taken me 15 years to get out of debt. With Freedom, it's only going to take me 3.
Don't spend one more sleepless night worrying about debt. Give Freedom Debt Relief a call and end your debt stress now.
Call 1-800-652-9120 to start eliminating your debt now. That's 1-800-652-9120.
Here I am, in the United States.
I am a candidate for President of the United States of America.
I have decided to run and will be making a formal announcement within the next week.
We've spent a lot of time in Iowa. We've done 21 trips there, 12 to New Hampshire. And I think my message, which is about bringing this terribly divided nation back together.
I've got to make sure that there is that grassroots support. And that's what we're ascertaining. If there is, I'll run. If there isn't, I won't.
A lot of people say Biden's doing okay, but, you know, he was always a 1%er. We'll see what happens with him.
Well, the field is starting to take shape. Democratic candidates, there are potentially a lot of them, really a cast of thousands, as we get ready to hear all of their decisions, whether they're running or not. Meantime, the president is taking to Twitter to basically troll them. Best line in the Elizabeth Warren beer catastrophe is to her husband, quote, "Thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. It's their house. He's supposed to be there." The president tweeting about that video from Elizabeth Warren. We're back with the panel. Thoughts early on this this race as it's forming.
You know, the comedian-in-chief in the White House, I think, is going to be offering his color commentary throughout this entire process. It's going to be fascinating to see that play out. Trump. The question is whether they're also going to be anti-Trump voter, anti-appealing to Trump voters, which I view to be kind of the key divide right now that's taking shape in the field. Do you try to win back some of those Trump voting people in the middle of the country, or do you write them off and not care about them? One of the most interesting developments I think, is the entrance of Tulsi Gabbard into this race. She's sort of a younger, more telegenic version of Bernie Sanders. I don't know if she's going to end up taking away significant support from him. He does seem committed to continuing to run. But again, it's the question of, do you even try to appeal to those working class voters, or do you just write them off?
Mo, was there a signal being sent by President Obama, former President Obama, saying they need new blood in the Democratic Party? I mean, if anything, that's a pretty stark message to Joe Biden.
Well, look, I think there's no question that the Democratic Party writ large needs to sort of embrace this new generation of up-and-comers and elevate them. Does that mean it needs to be at the top of the ticket? I don't know. The voters are going to decide that. Democratic primary voters are going to decide that. I think it's interesting that there's going to be a number of different fissures that I think emerge throughout the course of this primary. There's going to be an urban versus rural fissure. There's going to be a generational divide. There's going to be, obviously, gender divide. There's going to be generational. So there's going to be all sorts of different things. Ben's right that all of them are going to be unified in their opposition to the president. But what is the proactive message that they are each going to offer, I think, is actually going to be bigger than any of those divides.
CBS reporting Kristen Gillibrand coming out tomorrow on the Late Show on CBS. It's crowding up right now, but now is also the phase where you get grifters, weirdos, people who are looking to raise their visibility. You got no chance. Maybe you're running for vice president. Get in early. You can get a bunch of interviews. You can get some airtime. You can get seen. And then when it doesn't work out, nobody will ever remember. It'll be fine. So now's the time.
Over under 20 candidates in.
By the time we'll go over 20 for a period of time, but I think we'll retreat back under 20 pretty quickly.
I think that's about right.
I think, yes, the same as Chris.
All right. Chris is always, just go with it. Yeah. When we come back, a White House spread worthy of national champions.
Well, the kids wanted a puppy, but they can be really expensive. So to save money, I just found him a possum.
Dad, I think he's dead.
Probably just playing possum. There he is.
There's an easier way to save. Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
To those with diabetes, mealtime is really time to think about insulin. When do I prepare? Where do I inject? But Afrezza lets you inhale your insulin when food arrives, even unexpectedly. So you can be spontaneous and not rely solely on injections.
Afrezza is a rapid-acting inhaled insulin used to control adult diabetes. Afrezza can cause serious side effects, including sudden lung problems and low potassium. Afrezza is not for patients with chronic lung disease such as asthma or COPD. Tell your doctor if you smoke, recently stopped smoking, have ever had kidney or liver problems, a history of lung cancer, or if you are pregnant or breastfeeding. Most common side effects are low blood sugar, cough, and sore throat. Severe low blood sugar can be fatal. Do not replace long-acting insulin with Afrezza. Afrezza is not for use to treat diabetic ketoacidosis. Do not take Afrezza if you are allergic to insulin.
Get some dessert?
Talk to your doctor before changing your Afrezza dose. Blood sugar may need to be checked more frequently.
Ask your doctor if Afrezza inhalable insulin is right for you.
At Safe Flight Auto Glass, we know that when you're spending time with the grandkids, every minute counts. And you don't have time for a cracked windshield. That's why we show you exactly when we'll be there, saving you time so you can keep saving the world.
Let me get this straight. After a long day of hard work, you have to do more work?
Automatically sort your expenses and save over 40 hours a month.
Every day you're nearly fried to a crisp professionally.
You earned it. We're here to make sure you get it. QuickBooks, backing you.
Ordering takeout.
Finding the best route. Talking for hours.
Planning for showers.
Checking the news.
Buying new shoes.
Burning some fat.
Sharing the latest viral cat.
Catching that replay.